I want to welcome those of you who are watching our Unity of Monroe YouTube channel, and welcome. I'm glad you could tune in. And to those who are here on this beautiful Sunday morning, a little warm, but who cares? We're inside and it's 72 or 71 degrees in here, so it's nice and cool inside. Absolutely. You know, I used to have an aunt and uncle live down on the farm. We'd go down and visit them. You realize that they were married for over 75 years. Can you believe that? 75 years. And not only were they married for that length of time, they had great health throughout the longevity of their marriage. I asked my Uncle Lawrence one day, I said, Uncle Lawrence, tell me about your secret for being healthy and being married so long. What's your secret? He said, well, I promised my wife, your Aunt Betty, that if we ever quarrel, that the loser had to walk up and down for 2 miles down the road. And I've been walking every day for 75 years. But I said to him, Uncle Lawrence, how come Aunt Betty is so healthy as well? And he said, well, my son, I'm going to give you another secret here. The secret is that every time I walked that road, Aunt Betty walked behind me. Day after day, walked the walk to make sure that I was walking the walk. That makes sense. And when we think about walking the walk, when it comes to this idea of finding that whole being that we are, we're called to walk the walk. And what does that mean for us? Well, maybe it means walking, a little bit of exercise, maybe yoga, or maybe it's something like, finding a diet that works for our body type, our consciousness, our wholeness. Or maybe it's finding proper rest. And on. There's so many different ways we tap into. We find this art of the whole being that we are. Why? Because we are so much more, are we not? Than, as I like to affectionately call it, this earth suit. This garment that we wear. We are so much more than that, friends, and we know that. But what are we? We are spirit. We are soul. We're all those things. We're mind, we're body, we're everything wrapped together. But what do we do sometimes? We like to compartmentalize. We like to say, well, I'm this or I'm that. And so much of that can affect us in not so healthy ways. We think in terms of sometimes different compartments. And yet the truth is, we are a spirit with a soul connected in mind that lives in this earth suit, this body, this place and space. Many of you are familiar with, of course, the writings of the great Unity minister and author Eric Butterworth. And Eric Butterworth always kind of touched on these themes of wholeness in many of his books. And he coined a phrase, a word, shall we say, that's, I think, interesting, and maybe I've used this before, in the art of wholeness. He called it holing. That's Eric Butterworth's word, holing. It is a process grounded in the awareness that health, real health, is from where? It's from within us. It doesn't have to be manufactured and can't really be manufactured in the without. It is an internal awareness of the wholeness of who and what we are, the unimpeachable, I should say, wholeness of who and what we are. So that idea of holing is a good word to kind of connect with. What does that mean to us? That word that means holing, it means we're connected, we're in unity, we're in oneness with every part of our being, the art of wholeness. Now, for some people, this may be a new phenomenon, a new idea that we're integrated, body, mind, soul, spirit, all of that. But Unity's been teaching, and you thought has been teaching this forever, as long as we've been around. And when you go way, way back, it's part of the tradition of the ancient Greek philosophers. It's part of the 5,000-year-old Vedic Hindu texts. This idea that there's a divine connection. I can't be separate from my mind or my body because it's all infused and connected, an interconnectedness. We look at it from the spiritual letters of Paul in the New Testament. He talked about that connection of mind, body, soul, and spirit. We find it in most recent talks and books and writings and workshops, whatever it may be, about the art of wholeness. Do I wish to be whole, or do I wish to find myself in that hole of concern and despair and worry and doubt? So I say that because oftentimes we think in terms of compartmentalizing, as I said earlier. We think in terms of, oh, well, I'm feeling this, so everything else gets affected. So for instance, and we all know that this is true, we've all gone through this experience where we have a body that is feeling a sense of pain, aches, suffering, whatever it may be. And what does it do? It takes away from our listening to our spirit, to listen to our soul guiding us, supporting us. And why does it do this? Because we invest in the human condition. We invest so much in our physical body, this earth suit. It is the most immediate thing that we can connect with. And so when it's not feeling well, what happens? All the other stuff that we're truly connected to and with and as, it suffers because we're not connected in mind. We're always connected in spirit and possibility. But when I'm suffering painful things, it's so easy to get drawn away from that. You get what I'm saying with that? It's so easy. This is why we must insist and talk about this idea of what Butterworth says, to practice the art of holding, however that resonates with you, to recognize that that process of being a whole being is part of that divine fulfillment that we're seeking out, the divine fulfillment that says this and other creative essences, whether it's like peace or joy or happiness or love, all of these things is not dependent upon what the world is trying to tell us or sell us. I always like that idea. The world is always trying to tell us something, right? Right, Jen? The world may be trying to sell us something, right, Jen? Ooh, Jen and Jen, I like that. It's trying to sell us and tell us this is the way. But the truth is what Butterworth talks about, and the opposite is really true. To establish that front in consciousness that says, I am a whole being in God. And yeah, I may be feeling the effects of whatever it may be, but that doesn't stop me from being connected with my soul, my heart, my whole being, that connection we have with all of life. That's part of the recognition that we own up to. We participate, we're active and involved, and part of what? This whole universe, this whole place and space. According to priest and paleontologist Father Pierre Terre de Chardin, he talked about this in his wonderful book called The Phenomenon of Man. And he talked about this idea of the connection we have, mind, body, soul, and spirit. He talked about it as the unimpeachable wholeness of the universe. As a paleontologist, he talked about the wholeness of the universe. Our universe is whole. It is connected. It is in oneness. And you who are watching, you who are here, are part of that. You are a connection to the universe. So guess what? You are an unimpeachable wholeness of the universe, part of that universe. You're not separate from it. It is whole in you. Thus, wholeness and health is not something we have to get. It's never been. It's what we have to be. That may be word semantics to some, but it really is about being. It's not about something we have to get something physically or pray or meditate on or metaphysically process in prayers or treatments. It's a matter of just being, that whole being that we're called to be whole in the process. So the decision today really is this decision, this question, am I whole or whole, spelled a different way with a question mark? What do I mean by that? Well, we're all privy to, we've all been there, have we not? We've all had those moments where we've been in that hole of confusion. There's a pain running through our body. Our mind is not clear or focused or attentive. Or we're having an interpersonal relationship problem. something that is not bringing us into unity of oneness. And so it feels like we fall down that hole, right? The darkness of the hole, and we need someone perhaps to lift us up. And maybe we have that support with a friend, or maybe we find that inner strength, that counsel, if you will, the whole and Holy Spirit of God. So holes are what? They're the traps that we create for ourselves, that we sometimes fall down when we say, oh, I'm just this physical being. I'm just this human being. No. I'm a human possibility, dynamo. We have to own up to that, my friends. We have to live for that. Holes are those traps we set, the hole that we set in the traps of our consciousness, where we think in terms of limitations instead of the wholeness and holiness of spirit. I know I've caught myself from time to time. Maybe you've caught yourself from time to time as well. When you move through that process and you think, oh, well, I have to give myself permission in some way. Or we think in terms of, let's go back to those days if you went to college. Remember back in college when you had to have certain prerequisites for classes? You had to have this class before you took that class. And so we sometimes have a prerequisite in our consciousness, our lives. Do you know what I mean by that prerequisite? This idea like, I'll be happy when the prerequisite happens. I'll feel better about things when this takes place or changes. Those are the prerequisites that we kind of have. Whatever's present in my life, I'll be happy. ... Those are the prerequisites we set. And that's all about a sense of separation. That somehow that's separate from everything else. We've all been there. I've been there as well, feeling that sometimes. Oh, I'll feel better when... I'll feel better when it's like October, right? Weather's better. Well, it's not that hot right now. But thinking about that sense of whatever the lack may be, that lack of joy or peace or wonder. And it comes because the prerequisites are set. This has to happen before this happens. And it doesn't. That's getting into that sense of separation. Among Jesus' statements, and there were so many, on this purpose of what our life is, to find that presence. And I've shared this with you before because I love this passage from John 10:10, where Jesus says, I have come that they may have life and they may have it, what? More abundantly. Not less. To have life is to find that divine connection. And Jesus isn't pointing the finger at himself. He's saying, find that life according to these teachings and the revelation in your consciousness of the fullness and the life that is within you. To find that divine inspiration, because Jesus wasn't here and wasn't the divine Savior. He was simply divine inspiration, divine teacher. He was, as some people have said, the map maker for our spiritual journey. And I like that idea, the map maker for our journey. Remember what maps used to look like when we had them back in the days? We don't use the maps anymore. And maybe that's a good thing. We use apps instead of maps. Because you'd be driving down the highway. Where is Route 73? And you're going like this with the map. And it's like, Now we hold the phone up, which is not good either. But remember, a maker of maps was making a journey for you. But the journey was not the destination, according to scientist and philosopher Alfred Korzybski. And Korzybski said the map is not the territory. In other words, you have a map in front of you. It's not your territory, it's just a map. As the Indian philosopher Krishnamurti talked about, he said the description is not the described. Think about that for a moment. The description is not the described. So what Korzybski and Krishnamurti are talking about is this idea of what you see has to be translated into your life. It'd be like encountering a hungry person and then expecting them to get fed by handing them a simple menu. The map is not the territory. It's just a map. The map is not the territory. So we often define our wholeness according to the territory of our consciousness that says, this is the way it is. This is the prerequisite I have to have. This is whatever it may be. This is the disconnect I feel in mind, body, spirit, or soul, whatever it may be. Our lives are healthy when we are linked together, no matter what. Recognizing we have a source of meaning and purpose in our life. We have a connection with each other, each soul, each being. And that our future is assured in this quality of life and experience. Can we affirm to ourselves and know, and I think this is very important to remember when we're going through whatever it may happen to be, whether it's an illness, a sense of lack, maybe a confusion of the mind, to know and affirm, I am not my experience. Yes, I'm going through an experience, but I'm not that. Map's not the territory. I'm just going through this stuff. Now, what am I going to do with it? Am I going to sit there throughout that and forget that I'm a spiritual being? Forget that I am a soulful being? Forget that wholeness and holiness in God? The truth is, we have experiences, yes. And sometimes we go through suffering and pain, but we are not our experiences. So nothing is an obstacle in spirit when you get right down to it and thinking about it. Because when you get to the letters of Paul, you hear this wonderful phrase said many times in 1st Tim or 2nd Timothy. For God has not given us a spirit of fear. We do not have that spirit of fear, a fear of the experiences and the consequences we go through. But we have a powerful, love-filled, and sound consciousness and mind and soul. And all of that goes into this idea of holing, and living the holy experience of life. I had a good friend who grew up, was born and raised in a New Thought tradition. Went on to become a New Thought minister. And one of the things that she was always working toward was this integration, this finding of the art of wholeness, of holing every part of her body and mind and life experience. And it was an ongoing journey for her. And it really became clear, crystal clear for her when she found herself in that unique position to say, I am being, I am letting myself be that whole and holy and integrated being that I'm called to be. See, we live in that call of balance and harmony, creativity, to live an authentic being that we are called to be. That's all that we're called to be, my friends, to be authentic. And the authentic being we are is a whole creation in God. We're a holy being in the universe. When we look at something and read it on the menu, we remember that that's not going to feed us. The only thing that will feed us is when we are sustaining and partaking of. And it's the same thing with the decision, the choice this day that we make, and every single day. Am I going to be whole or whole? And we realize that we must be the whole that we desire to be. So let's just take a few moments to remember the wholeness, the holiness, the vitality, the union of who and what we are as we close our eyes and as we begin this wonderful, connected journey in wholeness and in life and in quiet, as we close our eyes, as we center ourselves and find comfort where we are seated. Comfort in this space and place, comfort in mind and body and soul and spirit. And I invite myself to be aware of the power of my breath as I breathe in this moment. And as I let go and let that flow of blessings, of life, of energy go forth. Breathing in once again. And breathing out. I am taking this moment to tap into, to know, to feel that divine call of my whole being. First, by allowing myself to be quiet, peaceful, and ready to declare and know this unity of all life. So I relax in this holy spatial moment. A moment that reverberates in every cell and fiber and tissue of my being, from head to toe. I am more than just the human observation. I am, as God created me to be, a whole and holy essence of what life is: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. I take the time to see and feel the divine. And in that connection I have with a loved one, with life, with my whole being, I find that quality of peacefulness, a quality that reassures me of this symbiotic relationship. I bless my mind and my body in oneness and in purpose, whole, healthy, well. I bless my awareness of spiritual ideas and thoughts, feelings, as it flows through me to inspire and invigorate who I am. I honor and bless and recognize the wholeness of my soul, which is always connected and in union with my body, my mind, my spirit. And it is that soul that I honor this day that directs the course of my being. And I honor the power of my mind and consciousness to know this truth, that there is unity and oneness and purpose in this divine connection. For I am more than just, I am as God created me to be. A spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, and soulful being. So let's take a moment just to honor this process, where we are right now, where you are. In this time of quiet and contemplation, using the power of our creative imagination to see this whole and integrated being that I am, that you are, that we are. This whole and holy being, filled with healthful and helpful possibilities, filled with energy and life, divine inspiration and discernment. peacefulness, clarity. Taking a moment in quiet and using that power of our creative thoughts and ideas and imagination to see this whole and holy being, blessed and lifted up. In this magnificent moment, in the silence. I live, move, and have my being in this awareness that my very nature, the core of my being, is a whole creation in God. I celebrate that this day, loving presence, and give thanks through those moments of challenge and change, for I know that I truly will be lifted up in the wholeness and the art of living life fully and freely. So I give thanks this day for the power of wholeness to bless and to unify and to quicken my whole being. And so it is.